Welcome to the Fanatical Elfz Show, part of the Elfz Network. We are a bunch of wild and crazy Cleveland Browns fans, bringing you all the latest in Browns news. Tune in now. And we are a bunch of wild and crazy Browns fans here on the Fanatical Elfz Show. We are in playoff mode, big time, as we prep you for the huge game Saturday as the Brownies play the Houston Texans down in Houston again. Welcome, Steve. Welcome, Elliot. And welcome, Sam. I'm your host, John. We're all your hosts. We all have great shows here on the Fanatical Elfz Network, and we are excited that you've joined us tonight on this Thursday as we get ready for the big game. Sam, how are you doing down there in the Lone Star State?
Pretty good. It might snow in a few days.
Ooh,
yeah, the weather, it's gonna be below freezing tonight. And it's Sunday. Yeah, Sunday it's going to be 29. On Monday it's going to be 22, and then on Tuesday it's going to be 27. And so we might have some snow soon.
And you're in the Dallas area.
Yeah, not very common. We get it about once a year, not very much though.
It's funny because my friends in Kansas, where I used to live in Wichita, they've had two big snowstorms, and here in Ohio in Columbus we've had squat. But and we're going to still continue to get squat. We might get a little bit of cold. We're going to get a lot of cold, but I don't know much snow. But, well, Sam, glad to have you aboard. I know you and the Oracle, Elliot, joined forces earlier in the week, which was exciting to listen to. And if you tune into the Oracle Speaks and to Sam's Browns breakdowns every week, so just some great content. And Elliot, you had some really nice complimentary words for Sam. So thank you for that. Check out Sam. Elliot, how are you doing tonight?
Well, I'm doing just absolutely fine. I'm kind of going into conniptions about this game with Houston. I'm not real thrilled about playing Houston, frankly. I was hoping that we'd play Jacksonville. I think that Houston is really a very tough team that's getting better as the season has gone on. Yeah, but we'll talk about that more.
I would agree with that. Yeah, we'll get into that. And Steve Gill, the Dog Pound South guru, who knows everything outside of Cleveland, he brings it every time, and he's the rational fan in the group. I'm the irrational, crazy fan who doesn't make a lot of sense most of the time when we talk about the Brownies. But that's a lot about a lot of us Browns fans, and so I try to just bring it, and Steve kind of balances me out. How you doing, Steve?
Doing great. I'd like to thank Samuel for all that weather they're sending us from Texas. Tomorrow we're getting some heavy rain and 50-mile-an-hour winds. Then Saturday and Sunday 30s, and then Sunday night, Monday, snow. The low, I think, Monday night is going to be 7.
Ooh.
Tuesday night's going to be 11.
Ooh.
So we're going to, I don't know where the snow is going to go. If you live in Nashville or Middle Tennessee, 30 miles can be the difference between 6 inches and a dusting.
Oh, well, we'll find out.
They're going to be juicing the streets on Saturday. They got this brine mixture they put down. As long as it's not raining, they can put it down first, and it works up to 20 degrees. And then after that, they'll start hitting the salt trucks.
We like that brine. Yeah.
Love the brine.
Interesting side note here. I caught wind of a short story. Probably won't happen, but since we're talking about the weather forecast, it was reported today in some periodicals that the Buffalo Bills Pittsburgh Steelers game potentially could be moved to Cleveland Browns Stadium, and the Browns have been in contact with the NFL that the game, because the Buffalo area will be under a winter weather. They're already under a winter storm warning, and they have all the lake effect there. So they've talked about it. It would have to be really awful there. And I mean, I've been to Buffalo when it's been awful, but I don't know. It was just funny to see that as a news story. I don't know if any of you caught that.
That was a Pittsburgh guy who put that out. Filippiano or whatever his name is, the guy who said that Little Hands will be a Pro Bowl quarterback this year. So I'll take anything he says with a grain of salt.
A grain of salt. Well, okay, let's talk about this big game because that's where we're tuning up for. And I know Elliot kind of speculated a little bit about Houston, and this is going to be a different Houston team, and that's been a lot of the conversation because quarterback for the Browns or for the Houston Texans was not CJ Stroud the last time they played them a couple of weeks ago, where Amari Cooper had the game of his life and Flacco had the game of his life after, sitting on the couch. So let's go around the room. Steve, let's start with you since we just finished with chatting. Your initial thoughts going into this game. What are your expectations? What are you looking at? And are you nervous or maybe not? I don't know what the word to use would be nervous, but Elliot described, Houston not being the team that he'd want to play. What are your initial thoughts on this game Saturday?
Well, as I look back on the game they played on Christmas Eve, the Browns basically held the Houston offense, and I know CJ Stroud wasn't starting, to 0 points until garbage time. Their only touchdown came on a kickoff. And the Browns won without a punter and a kicker for almost 3/4 of the game. Is that the game we're talking about?
That's the game.
Good. Yes, CJ Stroud does provide a little bit of a difference. However, he does not perform well against teams who have good pass defenses.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'll skip the Baltimore game because that was the first game of the season. But he struggled against New Orleans, Carolina, and the Jets. Now, he did get hurt in the Jets game, but before he got hurt, he was like 10 for 23 for 91 yards. You pressure him, he doesn't do well. Clean pocket, he's like 20 TDs, 69% completion, 9.2 yards per attempt. You put pressure on him, 3 TDs, 52 completion rate, and 6 yards per attempt. And the Browns have the second best pressure rate in the NFL.
I think, Steve, part of the thing that I think some Browns fans, like even myself, are thinking, CJ Stroud, Ohio State, got to watch a lot of him here living in Columbus. And he's just been dazzling in a lot of ways in the NFL that I think, quite frankly, most of us weren't projecting at the beginning of the season. He was coming to a Houston team that was somewhat struggling. And, what he did the other night, it kind of magnified what I think Browns fans, in the back of at least my mind, I'm, as a Browns fan, I'm not used to going to the playoffs. I'm not used to being in this position. I'm not used to having probably the best team out there athletically and by position. We hands down, we have a better team than them. But seeing CJ Stroud, launch a 75-yard pass to Nico Collins to start that game against the Colts,
who don't have a very good pass defense.
The Colts, yes. No, but I'm just saying.
PJ Walker kind of threw the ball a little bit on him. So we're talking about PJ Walker. Okay.
But I think it's just those sorts of things. So that sort of settles in the back of people's minds, at least my mind, like, oh God, CJ Stroud, and I just think, our defense has been pretty solid this year, but our secondary, we've had our moments where, early in the season, I know it's been a full season now, but we've given up big plays. The Colts game was a prime example of that when we played the Colts, where we gave up a lot of big plays. And so that's something that not lately. No, I said but at the beginning, I think that was, so those are the sorts of things that I think a lot of common Brown fans sort of are used to. And so now we're in this different position, but we got to win this game. It's going to be regardless of how it all ends up. I mean, playing Houston on the road, anytime you go play a playoff game, wherever it is, I mean, at a away venue, like it's going to be tough. And so,
it's going to be tough. The Browns couldn't run the ball against them on Christmas Eve, and I don't expect them to run the ball against them here. But Houston, they do give up big plays, big splash plays. And since Falco's been a Brown, the Browns are number one in 20-plus yard explosive plays.
Yeah.
They were like, 27th before Flacco. Now they're number one. So Yeah, they're gonna pressure. I mean, they get Will Anderson back on a limited against the Colts. He was on a pitch count. Greenyard, their other big sack guy, he got hurt on the during the Christmas Eve game. He came back to practice limited. And Noah Brown did too, the other wide receiver. So yeah, they're going to put pressure. Yeah. But the Browns did not when the starters were in before they put DTR in. They protected Flacco. He wasn't sacked at all. Yeah. So just pressure Mr. Stroud.
I think I read somewhere
too. Like a rookie.
Steve, I read somewhere also. I think Flacco is undefeated in wild card weekends. So
he's 5-0 in wild card.
5-0. Okay, very
Kevin
good.
Stefanski's 10-0 versus the AFC South.
Right. Sam, what are your thoughts here on what Steve and I are talking about?
I would have definitely liked someone other than the Texans, but I think we've beat them once. I know they didn't have CJ Stroud, but I think one thing that I would be concerned about for the Texans, if I was a Texans fan, is CJ Stroud has never, ever, 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 ever even sniffed a playoff NFL game. Never in his career has he ever played in an NFL playoff game. And so I think I'd be worried if I don't think it will get to him, but I think there is a potential. If let's say it's 27-10 in the, or maybe even 24-10 in the fourth quarter, I think he'll crack under the pressure of trying to keep his entire football team's season alive. So I think if you can put pressure on the Texans and put pressure on CJ Stroud to shine and try and carry his team to not letting their season end, I think that'll be what breaks him, and he'll fall apart and you'll be able to win.
I like that take. Elliot.
Well, I think there are a lot of factors that are in favor of the Texans. I would much rather this be a home game. I want to play it in cold, nasty weather in Cleveland, but we don't have that opportunity. It's being played under ideal conditions in Houston on synthetic turf, and I don't really like that. That does favor Houston. CJ Stroud is really an awesome quarterback. The most outstanding statistic, I think, is that he's only thrown 5 interceptions the whole season long. That's really pretty cool.
Yeah.
He is an Ohio State quarterback, and gotta like that. However, let's not go crazy. If you look at his statistics, people on the media are really pumping him up like he's the second coming of Joe Montana. And but let's get real. He's had a very, very good year. But if you look at the statistic that everybody uses as the most reliable statistic, which is QBR, the quarterback rating, which ESPN made up, I'm not real crazy about it. But anyway, what does CJ Stroud rate actually at QBR? He's number 16 in the NFL. That's not Hall of Fame. That's a pretty good quarterback.
Yeah.
But it's not, like he's unbeatable. And then, his yardage is pretty good. But it's not unbeatable.
And
his traditional
the Colts,
rating, his traditional rating, he's number 6 in the NFL. That's really good, but it's not unbeatable. So I think
the Colts, go ahead. I'm sorry, Elliot.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that he does have some factors that are in his favor. I think that he's a better quarterback than our guy, Joe Flacco. Flacco has got a lot of yards, but he also has more interceptions in his short time with the Browns than Stroud had all season long. So I think that, that is very impressive. That's in favor of Stroud.
Let me ask you this though, Elliot. So like in that fact about comparing the two, I just think and personally, it's because you got Joe Flacco, who's 38 years old, and CJ Stroud, who's 22 years old. And I think Flacco doesn't give a crap. I mean, I think he gives a crap, but he's an old, experienced quarterback who knows that he's going to make some errors because he's throwing these balls in the tight windows, and he's more aggressive that maybe CJ Stroud is at this point. So that's what I chalk that up to.
Well, it's partly, but here again, Joe has not had enough repetitions. He did not have training camp, and he's out there without the bazillion repetitions that he would have liked to have had. And it may expose him a little bit. That is not a good thing.
Yeah. No.
And, so Stroud has had all that, and that's an advantage for him. No doubt.
Sure. Let's talk a little bit more about advantages and disadvantages here with both teams. One thing I did want to touch on and just talk about, and then if you want to get into more of the advantages and disadvantages, injuries. The Browns going into this game looked like they're not going to have Dustin Hopkins again. Their kicker, they're going to go with Riley Patterson.
Don't worry about
also, Denzel Ward was reported that he was coming off of the shoulder injury, and now he's got a new knee injury. It was reported. And
according to stop right there.
Yeah, that's fine.
Ian Rappaport.
Right. I read the same thing. I read the same. Yeah. And what I was going to say is that's what Ian Rappaport said, was he'll be fine. Jake Trotter said something a little bit different than that, but I guess Denzel Ward. He just said that it's going to take a little time or take it. I don't know how the way he phrased Jake Trotter, it was a little bit more, not negative, but more like, cautionary.
I thought he was questionable.
Yes, he said questionable. I guess.
So my question is, will he play?
I would hope that Denzel Ward, he's a walking basket case when it comes to injuries, but he is one of the best players.
He averages 14 games a season since he's been a Brown.
I get that.
Oh my God, he's missed 2 games every year.
2 to 3 games a year.
See, but this is where you guys are talking about because statistically, you can look at that, but come on now. Every year that Denzel Ward has played for the Browns, it has been a constant conversation.
Injuries happen, John.
I know that, and I don't know. I just think that he's definitely an important piece to this Browns team moving forward and through this postseason. I expect to see him out there Sunday. Does anybody not expect to see him out there Sunday? And just anything.
Even if he's not out there, Greg Newsome since Denver.
Now wait a second. Now
all pro. Martin Emerson is the second best corner in the NFL, and I have full confidence in Cameron Mitchell in this slot.
Okay.
Well, you know what else I really impressed me is that the Browns really uncovered a lot of depth in their defensive backfield against Cincinnati. Even though they played terrible as a team, their individual defensive backs showed up, and I think that they do have depth in the defensive backfield.
I do too.
But I guess, okay. Denzel Ward, I think it's a conversation piece that we've had for a long time with this team. I know you're saying he's averaging 14 games and blah, blah, blah. I agree. But at the same time, it's just like he's had how many concussions now? Like more than we
didn't have a concussion.
He's had 2 in his career.
But
no. Oh, he's had far more than that. No, come on. He's had like 5.
No, he's had 2.
Oh, no. I will go back and research that. I will. That's totally
Please
not.
do, because true. I think he's only.
Where did you come up with 2? 2? Are you? We'll look at that.
We'll look at.
Oh, he's had money more than 2.
I'm sure.
Come on,
Elliot
really?
Is looking it up as we speak.
He's had more than 2. I think he had 4 at least, and then he had this other one, and then we were thinking that might be 5.
Okay, since the Browns drafted Ward, he has suffered 4 documented concussions, including 1
4
during the preseason finale in Kansas City.
All right.
4,
all right. What are some of the so let's just other things that you guys are looking at as far as strengths, weaknesses of these teams.
Nico Collins is a guy that I'm worried about. The
Same here.
Texans only have one really big threat, and that's Nico Collins at wide receiver. And so he is a 4.45 guy in terms of speed, and that's why Denzel Ward would be really great to have. On the other hand, 4.45 is not totally unreachable by some of the guys that the Browns have. So I think that
does anybody else find it weird that Nico Collins? I know this is like off. I know it doesn't matter in football, but Nico Collins is Michigan guy and C.J. Stroud's Ohio State guy. Nico Collins is probably going to try to play like the best game of his life, considering that Michigan just won the national championship as well. So
he's going to play the best game of his life because he wants to win. Everybody wants to play the best game of their life.
But is he going to have nothing to do with the NFL?
What?
No.
Oh, the rivalries? I know. No, I just threw that out there.
Stroud's going to play really well because.
Well, come on now. As a Browns fan, he's not going
to throw to Nico Collins because he's.
Oh, I'm not going to throw to Nico. That Michigan guy.
Michigan
national champion.
I'm just saying. I'm speaking for all the irrational Browns fans out there. That even going back to the day when Braylon Edwards played for the Browns, there was a lot of chit chat during games and after games during that time period because he was from Michigan, and people in Cleveland would be irritated and would call it, not saying it's fair, and I'm saying it's irrational. I'm just saying it is a conversation piece, and some irrational fans do talk about stuff like that.
We shouldn't
only when the Browns stink and the player is during that season where they won 10 games. I didn't hear anybody complaining about Braylon Edwards
Sam
or Kellen Winslow.
Sam, what are you looking at as far as strengths and weaknesses for these teams? Nico Collins obviously scares us all.
Yeah, I think probably I feel like this sounds weird, but I feel like defense could possibly become a little bit of a weakness for the Browns if things go improperly. I feel like the defense, because sometimes what happens is the defense is like off. They end up not doing everything properly. They seem to like make weird mistakes. And this happened a lot, especially in the middle of the season where they would be bad for the first like quarter.
Yeah, we would go down 14-0.
Yeah, we would be bad for the first like quarter and a half of the game, and then we'd get better. But I feel like we got to be careful with that because especially in the playoffs, it's a super important game, and sometimes that pressure gets to players and will really mess them up. But then strengths, I mean, Joe Flacco, honestly, I feel like Joe Flacco is a really big strength right now. He's been there. He's done this. He's won Super Bowls. I think the Super Bowl makes it even more important because it's like, oh, yeah, a wild card. I've made the Super Bowl and won it before. I know what I'm doing here. And I think that's going to really help the Browns. I think he's going to be a leadership, too, for the Browns, all the younger players who haven't made it as far. He can point out things and show them how to not let the pressure get to them and things like that.
And I think that's an excellent point too. That's great because I unlike what you said earlier about CJ Stroud cracking under the pressure, while Joe Flacco may throw 3 interceptions in this game and we're all going to be pissed off and going, "Arr!" We also know that he doesn't give a heck, and he's going to come back and he's going to, keep flinging that ball. And I expect him to have a hell of a game on Saturday. I really do. And I think he is going to be a huge factor in this. And I think the Browns can continue to ride this momentum that he has really helped create. So I'm most excited to see that. I'm excited to see Amari Cooper because quite honestly, I think the two of them are going to continue where they left off a few weeks ago. And I know the game's going to be a little different. Obviously, it's a playoff atmosphere, blah, 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 blah. And Cooper's not maybe going to go for 265, but I definitely see those two working it out again. And let's not forget David Njoku, who we haven't even talked about yet as being another big part of this. And he had a huge game the game after. So, yeah.
They have to double cover him. Mm-hmm. And they have to double cover Amari Cooper. They're running out of people to double cover. Can't double cover everybody.
I'm not really worried about the defense. The last time the starting defense played on the road, they shut out the Houston offense. The only touchdown Houston got was a kick return.
Yep.
And then they got garbage time TVs and then TDs, and then Schwartz put the starters back in, and boom, game over. So I'm not worried about defense because that's still the same offensive line that Houston had the last time. Their left guard was his name. Juice Scruggs has allowed 7 sacks in 4 games. Their right tackle, Zadarius Smith, had his best game of the season.
Yes.
Versus that guy. 2 sacks, could have been 3 if there wasn't a penalty. So I expect the Houston to try to get, because Stroud doesn't play in the shotgun a lot. I mean, he's like under center 38% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to roll away from Myles Garrett to help Laramie Tunskill handle him one-on-one. And Tunskill does very well against Myles Garrett. So they will roll him to the right. So where are they rolling him to? They're rolling him into the arms of Zadarius Smith and Okoronkwo and JOK and Taki.
Yeah, JOK.
And, So, and as for their defense, for their defense, they're going to have to do something about Amari Cooper. 265 yards the last time.
Well,
so
what are they going to do? 300.
What are they going to do? I mean, they play zone like over 80% of the time. Are they going to have a safety come over and help? Well, that's going to leave Elijah Moore, who's still top 5 in separation in the NFL. I guarantee it might even help David Bell, and it'll definitely help the tight ends, Njoku and Harrison Bryant. And Elliott's right. You're running out of guys.
There's going to be somebody with the Browns, I think, on Saturday that we're not
don't
talking
forget about
Jerome
right now. Ford out of the backfield.
Right. We're going to talk about all those players. After the break, we're going to talk a little bit about some of these DraftKings over-unders and percentages and spreads. And we're also going to talk about Bill Belichick and some of the other coaches that have just announced their retirement. So this is the Fanatical Elfz Show. We're in playoff mode. We will be right back after these commercials. Oh boy, we are back here on the Fanatical Elfz Show, playoff mode. We're going to finish talking about this Browns playoff game here in a moment, but I did want to pause and bring up and just get anybody's take on several coaching changes this week, including today. Bill Belichick announced his retirement from the New England Patriots.
Wait a minute, I didn't hear that.
Nick Saban.
Wait a minute.
Belichick retiring.
No,
yes,
wait a minute. Belichick is not retired.
No.
Where did he go?
15 wins away from Don Shula.
He's not. He's just simply not employed by the New England Patriots. He didn't say he's retired.
He's leaving the New England Patriots. Nick Saban retired from Alabama. Other coaches, Pete Carroll, Seattle, has been alleviated or relieved of his duties there, but will continue alleviated. We'll continue with the Seattle Seahawks in some way. But I know Bill and Nick Saban, a lot of conversation has been had this week in Cleveland because, the Browns had all these great coaches on their coaching staff back in the 80s and just wanted your takes on these guys that are leaving or quitting or not retiring or retiring. And the fact that some people have been saying how
90s, but we'll
in the 90s, if it weren't for Kevin Stefanski, good old Steady Eddie, that everybody would be clamoring right now in Cleveland for a new coach. And one of these guys would certainly want to come to Cleveland to be the coach. But guess what? We have Kevin Stefanski and we don't need these guys. So just wanted your takes on that. And we've got Elliot bringing up some little things here. He's going to show, if you're watching us on YouTube, on the X, you're going to see some of this right now. I'm going to try to remove so we can see Sam. There's Sam. Okay. Go ahead, Elliot.
Yeah, this is a lot of fans may not recall, but Nick Saban was the defensive coordinator for the Cleveland Browns on Bill Belichick's staff when Bill Belichick was the Cleveland Browns head coach. That was they were both fired by Art Modell when the team was moved to Baltimore. So Art Modell had the distinction of firing Paul Brown, Bill Belichick, and also Nick Saban. He really, did the trifecta, getting the 3 greatest coaches in history fired by Art Modell. Also, let me mention that he ran Jim Brown out of town. Jim Brown did not want to retire after the 1965 season. He was forced out because He had a conflict with a Hollywood movie that he was making, The Dirty Dozen, and he would, Art Modell would not tolerate that, and so he was forced to retire.
Right.
And he also, by the way, traded away Paul Warfield. And people want Art Modell to be put into the Hall of Fame. I do not understand the universe that I live in. Do you want to take a break now for the commercials?
Elliot, we just did already. So we'll just.
We did? I missed that?
Yes, you did. Were you?
Okay, you missed some great commercials.
I missed that one.
We'll come back.
Oh, make that. I forgot to put this in.
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to make a mention that we learned that Michael Strahan's daughter Isabella is doing battle with a form of brain cancer. We want to, from all of us Fanatical Elves, wish her the absolute best as she recovers from this life-threatening condition.
Absolutely.
Every hope and possibility for a full recovery, but it's not 100%. So we are hoping and praying for her.
Yes.
And so that's what that's what
very
I want.
Good. Okay. Excellent. Let me go back a little bit to this game. I have some numbers here. Are you still there?
Yeah, we're all here.
Yeah, I had some technical glitch there. So I was looking at the DraftKings, a lot of betting folks out there, and there's a lot of money out there to get had. And Browns fans, if you play your cards right, there's some really interesting numbers here, and I wanted to run them by you and kind of go around the room here and get your thoughts on this. If you were betting, you're not betting. This is fictitious, but let's start here. Browns are 2-point favorites in this game. Do you agree with that? 2-point favorites, Steve? Is that fair?
Yeah. I do. I do agree with that. A lot of people are thinking that the Browns defense doesn't travel, even though the last time they went to Houston, they traveled. So I could see that. I mean, if this was played in Cleveland, that would lead me to believe that this would be a 5 to 6. They would be a 5 to 6 point favorite.
Sam, let me ask you this, and we'll go. I'm gonna throw another number at you. The over under right now is 44.5. You agree with that? Which side would you go for?
Points each. I mean, yeah, I could see a score of 24, 21, 27, 24, something like that. Yeah.
Okay. Elliot, what do you think about that number, 44.5?
Well, a rule of thumb is to not bet unless you believe that the number is off by 3 or more.
Okay.
And I think that I don't have a strong belief one way or the other, so I wouldn't touch this one. I do not plan to bet this one way or the other.
So the money line for Houston, Steve, is if you put the money on Houston winning this, it's a plus 114. You think that's a good? I mean, you're putting your money on Cleveland.
I have no idea. I don't gamble.
Okay.
Life's a gamble. I could walk out my door today and get hit by a car. So,
Amari Cooper.
Life's a gamble.
Sam, Amari Cooper in this game, the numbers look like this, that he's a plus 850. It's a plus 850. If you put like money down, it would be plus 850 if he scores the first touchdown. If he scores the last touchdown, it's a plus 900. And if he just gets one touchdown or at any point in the game, it's a plus 150. Those seem like really good. If you want to put, a couple bucks down on a game, which one do you like?
I like that he'll score a touchdown.
Yeah.
What's his over under on yards? Do you know?
I'm getting to that. Yeah. The over under for yards is 100 yards. 100 yards plus is a plus 200. That seems
I'd probably say that's a pretty good bet. 100 yards.
Right. I saw that and I was like, wow, that would be okay. Let me ask you this. Joe Flacco, Elliot, scoring a running touchdown, not a passing touchdown. Joe Flacco scoring a running touchdown is listen to this, it's a plus 1100 going into this game.
That's not high enough.
But here's, I think that's a great bet, though.
Joe Flacco has something like 5 rushing yards for the season.
Yeah, but let's say it's they get down there along the goal line. He's 6'6",
and they do a naked quarterback boot, Elliot.
Or they just push the tush push, or let him just jump over the top. I think that's
everybody going one way and he goes the other.
Hello, Tattoo. This is Mr.
I'm considering that.
Joe Flacco will score a running touchdown.
All right, let me go back to Joe Flacco again. The over 1.5 touchdowns. 1.5 touchdowns.
You can't send Flacco on a running touchdown because if he gets hurt, your Super Bowl dream is.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying if it's a quarterback sneak, you just have him throw the ball over the top.
He did a really good quarterback sneak against the Jets. It didn't involve any tush push or.
That's all I'm saying. Is
the guy is like 6'6".
I'm just saying I can see Stefanski doing this. Him throwing for 1.5
I can see
touchdowns.
him putting in Nick Harris and Michael Dunn in the backfield and having them wildcat to Kareem Hunt. That I can see.
Throwing for 1.5 touchdowns, meaning or more, 2 touchdowns, is plus 100 if you put a bet on that for Joe Flacco. Definitely think that's a winnable bet. Sam, you agree with that?
I mean, yeah, a little. I think I don't bet. I never even look at it. But I think Vegas kind of knows a little more than a lot of people do.
Yes, the game is fixed.
Yeah, I consider myself pretty knowledgeable in the Browns, but sometimes they know a little bit more than I do. So I think the odds are pretty where I'd expect them to be.
I think Vegas goes a little haywire with the first playoff games.
Let me ask you this.
And they settle in after the second playoff game.
Hey, I got a stat for you. Hey, John, I got a stat for you.
Okay. Yep.
All right. On the season, Joe Flacco has 9 rush attempts for 2 yards, an average of 0.2 yards per attempt.
That's
awesome.
He
needs a half a
Way
yard,
to go,
Elliot.
That's great. That's great. I love that. That's the best stat of the night.
8 years
Repeat that, Elliot.
9
carries for
9 carries
yards.
for 2 net yards.
Let's post that on social media.
Yards per attempt.
Right.
I think if it's on the 1-inch line, it might. Now, how often do you actually get on the 1-inch line at the goal?
Well, the Browns have their moments. Okay, let me ask you. Okay, got a couple other numbers here. Steve,
let
me go to you.
But not likely. Not likely. Not likely. It's not impossible. Quantum mechanics does not forbid that transition, but it is not likely.
Steve, let me ask you this.
Yes.
Cleveland Browns defense is listed as their defense anytime touchdown, turnover for a score, okay? Fumble recovery, interception like they did against the Jets. If you put money on it, it's plus 475. Do you like that?
Wow.
I mean, I know you don't bet, but that's a pretty good. That's a big
number.
Yeah, 475.
Prior to Ronnie Hickman picking off the Jets, when was the last time they had a touchdown? Was it against the Colts when, or was that a safety when Miles sacked?
They had one against the Ravens.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Great news.
Ravens, and then Ronnie Hickman against the Jets. Yeah, that's a high number.
Well, if you go back, listen.
If you got a couple bucks, I'd throw it on it.
Steve, if you go back to the Pittsburgh Steelers game in 2020, what happened in the first play of the game?
That was different team, different players.
Well, I know, but I'm just giving another example. I mean, that's a perfect example of what could, not going to happen like that. If it did, that would be fantastic.
If you got $2, that's a healthy bet.
Yeah. All right. Let me couple more here we'll finish with here.
For those of you who live in states who don't have legal gambling.
I think this is a steal here. Anytime touchdown for David Njoku is plus 170. Anytime touchdown is plus 170. I'm like, you put $10 down, that's, you're getting $17 back. I'm like, that's no.
Yeah, but that means that you're thinking that on a season that Njoku is going to be like like a 10 touchdown guy. Is he a 10 touchdown guy?
Not yet. No. Let me ask you this. While you're looking
Hey, I
for
got
that,
another stat for you.
another stat for us. Okay.
When you're talking about, what was the thing about Stroud that we're gonna get a turnover touchdown? Was that the thing?
Yes.
Okay. Stroud only has 5 interceptions on the season.
Yeah.
However,
That's why it's so high.
he has 8 fumbles on the season.
Ooh, Miles Garrett,
Miles
Zadarius
Garrett
Smith,
is the strip sack
Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah.
artist. Ooh.
Elliot bringing in something
Cocky.
the local scared media has not mentioned yet up there in Cleveland. They're all concerned about those 5 interceptions, but 8 fumbles. I did not know that, Elliot.
Yeah,
man, we are bringing it here on the Fanatical Elfz tonight, folks.
We are bringing it to you.
Jerome Ford. Now, this is another one. Okay, Jerome Ford. Think about Jerome Ford for a minute.
Yep.
If he scores 2 touchdowns in this game, which has happened multiple times this season,
he's got 9 on the year.
Get the odds are plus 950. 950.
Could happen.
I'm thinking seriously about that bet. I'm like that. And then Amari Cooper, get this. Amari Cooper, 2 touchdowns in this game, plus 1,000. Plus 1,000. Now, I know Amari Cooper hasn't had, what is he? Didn't he have 2 touchdowns against Houston?
Yes, he did.
That's what I thought.
He did. Christmas
and
Eve.
It's plus 1,000.
Let's see. What are the odds for Ford?
Ford is plus 950. So the odds are better for Ford, or they are saying that it's more likely that Ford at 950 is going to score 2 touchdowns more than Amari Cooper scoring 2 touchdowns, which is just fascinates me that they've got that the way they do in Vegas. By the way, 60% of all bets,
that's probably because he scored multiple touchdowns in more games than Amari Cooper. Because before Joe Flacco, I think they only had two or three touchdowns to wide receivers before Flacco.
Yeah.
And in all those games,
the betting on this game is 60% Browns, 40% Houston Texans. The money is going toward the Browns overall.
It may be that way in the attendance fan, the way the ticket prices are bottoming out. It doesn't appear that the Texan fans really want to go to this game.
How much are the tickets?
Paul Brown.
I've seen them for like $100, $125.
If you wait right till
lower bowl,
man, we could have gone.
Yes, you.
I know.
You're the closest.
Well, let's
still go.
Sam, what are your final thoughts here on this rolling into the game? We're going to have a pregame show on Saturday. We'll have a postgame show after the Browns victory. Final takes here, Sam, on this Thursday night as we try to sleep and prep. I mean, I'm gonna have a hard time sleeping the next couple nights.
Why?
I'm an irrational Browns fan. I'm excitedly nervous.
Calm down, relax, take deep
breath.
I think I covered much of the things that are important for this game. But yeah, I think the Browns are gonna win. I think it'll be competitive. I think it'll be a very competitive game. But who knows? Maybe the national championship messed up the field, and so Houston's gonna have
the roof was leaking.
The field's messed up. I don't know. I'm just making things up. Yeah, I think the Browns are gonna win. I think we have an advantage I think we have an advantage at quarterback. I think Joe Flacco's better than CJ Stroud, and I think our receivers are better. Running back, maybe it's a similar thing, but defense is 100% better than the Texans. I just think we're just better in a lot of play. Coaches actually really interesting because D'Amico Ryans, isn't he? He's like second in Coach of the Year polls, and Kevin's number 1. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, I think the Browns have the advantage. It just keep turnovers low and try and see if you can break CJ Stroud and tear him down and see if that helps.
I like that strategy. Elliot.
Yeah, I think, there's it's difficult to forecast this game, my rule of thumb would be is if you think that the spread is off by more than 3, then you bet it. Do I think that the Browns should be favored by more than 5 points? Probably not. Do I think that Houston should be favored by 1 or more points? Probably not. So I think it will be a very close game. I think the Browns do have some big edges. The biggest edge is Myles Garrett. And with an extra week to rest that shoulder, I think he could be really amazing. That's what I'm looking for.
Excellent. Steve.
The Texans are like 26 in pass defense. So I'm not worried about Joe Flacco. They're very strong against the run. If the last time the Browns played them, they had a total of 54 yards rushing as a team.
Yeah.
So if the Browns can get into the 80 to 90 yards rushing, then they have control of this game. They will keep using that play action that Falco is so good at, and that'll kind of take the pressure off. I do worry about our left tackle, Christensen. He's not as good as everybody thinks he is. So I'm interested to see what kind of blocking schemes Callahan does. On defense, I'm interested to see where they line up Myles Garrett. Tunsil has had great success against him. But as we've all seen, Myles will stand over the center and do a double dribble. Against Tennessee, he ran back and forth a couple times. So let's see how he affects Houston's game plan. And like Elliot said, they can't double cover everybody. They'd run out of guys. So you got to pick your poison with this team. Is it going to be Amari Cooper? Is it going to be David Njoku? Is it going to be Elijah Moore? They got to pick one.
I don't think it's going to be Elijah Moore just because he's coming off of this concussion and everything else.
He played against Cincinnati, so he will play.
Was he? Yeah, he was out there, but
the only 2 people that are out are our kicker, and I don't worry about the replacement kicker. Last year in the first game wild card, he kicked the game winner versus the Chargers. He's like 4 for 4 in extra points in the playoffs and 3 for 3 in field goals. Now, outside the 50, that's where Hopkins did his special stuff. Inside, I'm not worried about him. And we get Bajorquez back, which means a great punter, field position will make a difference in this game.
I agree. I predict the Browns to win. I said it earlier. Somebody at work was asking me. My score is 30-22. Browns win. I think the Browns I don't think the lead will be as expanded big time early, but I think that the Browns score points in this one because of Joe Flacco and because of that 26th defense against the pass that you mentioned, Steve, also for Houston. And I just think that Joe Flacco is going to continue to have a good game. And he's going to find players to throw the ball to. He's got all these guys, and I think the Browns win 30-22. I'm sticking with that. I think it will be some tense moments in the fourth quarter, but I think the Browns defense will hold, or they'll do something to either create that larger lead. And maybe they get their pick 6 there at the end. Maybe the game is, close, and then they get who knows, but I'm going with that score. So we'll talk about it more later this week.
Real quick. The only 2 things I'm worried about with the Browns is their red zone and goal line defense. They're last in the league in both. And Houston has the number 1 special teams in the NFL, and we saw that on Christmas Eve with that touchdown for a kickoff. So I'm interested to see
that's a good point.
What Bubba Ventrone dials up to contain that returner, and what Schwartz can do to kind of help that, keep them out of the red zone.
And I think every game's very important. You got to take one game at a time here in the playoffs, and obviously the Browns don't have a lot of experience in the playoffs. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but they certainly have
players who have experience.
They certainly have teams, and they have players that have that experience, and they have a coaching staff that we've talked about endlessly this season, and to just now again that are just top notch. And we haven't even mentioned Jim Schwartz's name much tonight, so we'll talk more about
what
that.
He dials up for CJ Stroud.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll have more conversation about that. We'll have other shows this week. I've still got my Johnny Cleveland podcast coming up. Among other things, but we'll be bringing you probably a Saturday morning show at some point. So we'll get together and we'll let everybody know when that's going to be. Sam, thank you. Steve, thank you. Elliot, thank you for being here, part of the Fanatical Elfz Network. Everybody have a great night and go Brownies. Woof, woof.
Go Browns.
I'm wearing a shirt. Yay.
Woo, woo.